I don't think it would be an issue because people would be using the facts instead of the imagined facts. If the facts were the same today, I wouldn't.
So he went on to say that the Me Too movement is, quote, long overdue. But critics are using it against him, he believes, in part because of President Trump.
I think partly because they're frustrated that they got all these serious allegations against the current occupant of the Oval Office, and his voters don't seem to care. I think I did the right thing. I defended the Constitution.
Then it got a little bit heated.
Through the lens of Me Too now, do you think differently or feel more responsibility?
No, I felt terrible then. Nobody believes that I got out of that for free. I left the White House $16 million in debt. You are giving one side and omitting facts.
Mr. President, I'm not trying to present a side.
You think President Kennedy should have resigned? Do you believe President Johnson should have resigned? Someone should ask you these questions because of the way you formulate the questions.
Very interesting questions on both sides there. Joining me now, David Bossie, former deputy campaign manager for President Trump, president of Citizens United, and a Fox News contributor who spent time as a lead investigator on congressional probes into the Clinton White House. And Lanny Davis, former special counsel to President Bill Clinton, who became well known for defending him during the Lewinsky scandal. He is also the author of the new book, The Unmaking of the President, 2016. Gentlemen, welcome. Great to have both of you with us tonight. You both have a lot of experience in this area and with these investigations. So, Lanny, let me begin with you. Does President Clinton need a new answer to that question now?
Well, I'm only going to give one comment on this topic. President Clinton apologized to the American people publicly. He apologized to Ms. Lewinsky and her family publicly, and he apologized to his wife and family. And by the time he left office, the American people's judgment was a 65% approval rating, the highest of any second-term president since polls were invented. That's about all I want to say about that topic.
Understood. David, let me get your response to this. It's also interesting that, the part where he says, I left the White House $16 million in debt. Don Trump Jr. Tweeted about that today. He said, did Bill Clinton just Me Too Monica Lewinsky? I almost have no words. Props for him always being ahead of the curve as the first male to publicly somehow claim victimhood from his actions against women. Ballsy, stupid, but ballsy, says Donald Trump Jr. Your thoughts, David?
Well, it's Bill Clinton. It's perfect, quintessential Bill Clinton. He's the victim here. He's the victim as the president of the United States who used his position of power over a 20-year-old intern. He's the victim after all these years. It's ridiculous. Bill Clinton only admitted the truth, which was that he had an affair with Monica Lewinsky only because the special prosecutor got a subpoena to draw his blood to force him to admit that he left physical evidence on a blue dress. That is how disgusting the facts were that we had to deal with in the 90s.
All right. Lanny, in terms of the broader investigation, at the time you fought very hard against independent counsel Ken Starr. You said that he was out of control, that there wasn't a scintilla of evidence against Bill Clinton in the Paula Jones case. And now Mark Penn, who also worked in the Clinton White House, he's very concerned about this. He says, I lived through it in 1998, and I think it's wrong, and I think it's what's happening again. Do you agree with Mark Penn?
I have no idea what Mark said. He's a good friend of mine, and I have no idea what quotes
he's written
you're using.
about 5 or 6 columns that basically say that he thinks this investigation's out of control.
I just said I have no idea what Mark Penn said. He's a good friend of mine. This investigation has been going on for 1 year. And at 1 year into Watergate, President Nixon said, 1 year is enough, let's close the investigation. 1 year later, he resigned. I think Mr. Mueller is highly respected. Trey Gowdy, who I never thought I would quote David in praise after what he did on Benghazi. Trey Gowdy has told President Trump the following: if you're not guilty, then act like it. So let's let Mr. Mueller do his job.
Lanny, let me just correct you on one thing, and that is that this investigation will have been going on for 2 years this August. 2 years. The House and Senate started their investigations in August of 16. Let's not forget that. So, yes, Mueller has been in office office just over a year, but this investigation's been going on for 2 years, Lanny. No, Lanny, it's been going on for 2 years, and there's been no evidence whatsoever of any collusion. And that's what this investigation was about. It wasn't about, Paul Manafort and what he did 10 years ago, even though he's going to be convicted, it looks like, on other issues. Has nothing to do with the president and the campaign's collusion. That's the president's point. He didn't do anything wrong.
And also, Lanny, that was an interview that I did with Trey Gowdy. The part that doesn't get picked up a whole lot was that he said, I don't think President Trump did anything wrong. He said, from everything we're seeing, there's no indication that he's done anything wrong.
I don't think is certainly fair, because we haven't seen the facts yet. My friend David Bossie, who has become a friend over the years. But you say he should be impeached. Wait a minute, Lanny. You just said he should be impeached. You say President Trump should be impeached. And then you just said in the last breath that you don't think you have all the facts. Who just said he should be impeached? I did not say that.
You have said that.
I have said he should be investigated. I don't know whether he should be impeached. My book, which thank you for mentioning, Martha, calls for an investigation. And my friend David Bossie, we have become friends over the years, forgot to mention that Ken Starr investigated Bill Clinton and Mrs. Clinton for 7 years and $60 million. And back then, David wasn't complaining.
Well, that's because Bill Clinton had one problem after another. It was one of the most corrupt administrations we ever saw. You look at how many independent counsels there were, Lanny. Look at how many different investigations there were, because there was corruption at every turn. This is an investigation, looking for some facts, but there's none there. And that's been the president's point the entire time.
Let's wait for the facts to come out. But by the way, David, the last independent counsel after Mr. Starr found no evidence of any criminal wrongdoing by either Mrs. Clinton. Despite all your efforts, it ended up in a big zero.
All right. Yeah. Let me ask you about James Comey, because I know that in your book, The Unmaking of the President, 2016, and by that you mean Hillary Clinton, because you believe that James Comey's actions toward the end of the campaign literally unmade her opportunity to be president. And you believe he lied. How so?
Well, this is where, again, David and I may actually agree on something. Comey lied when he said he was obligated to show the Congress that he was investigating the emails because of what he testified to, when all he actually said, and he knows that this is all he said, is, I will look at. When he finally looked at 6 days later, as we all know as a matter of history, he found nothing there, and on November 6th, 2 days before the election, he told us there was nothing there. I also agree that he should have been fired, but by President Obama, because he violated Justice Department fundamental rules. I don't agree with President Trump's reason for firing, but he should have been fired. All
right. And just to be clear, at this point, you do not believe that there should be impeachment proceedings against President Trump?
Not without an investigation. I want to see what the facts are after a thorough investigation. I'd like it to be a bipartisan judgment rather than a partisan one, which is what occurred to Bill Clinton in 1998.
Understood.
And Martha, that's why we need Republicans to keep control of the House, because that's the only way there won't be impeachment. The Democrats have no policy positions. They have no agenda other than to impeach this president to end his remarkable agenda and his successes.
All right, guys.
Remarkable.
Thank you. I know you're not going to agree on that one.
Himself.
Lanny, thank you. David, thank you both. Great to have you here. The Unmaking of the President 2016 is Lanny Davis's new